The following program is intended for the training of professional firefighters and paramedics only. This program is intended as a resource, not a replacement for any of their training. The activities depicted in this program are performed by highly trained and skilled individuals who possess the competency and certifications necessary to perform their duties. Persons who are not certified as a firefighter should not engage in any activities demonstrated on this program. When possible, footage of actual incidents are used in the creation of this program. Therefore, the content of this programming may be considered both verbally and visually graphic in nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Dispatch, engine 5 to arrival.
Hello, and welcome to Palm Beach County Fire Rescue's Distance Learning Program for area firefighters.
On today's episode of the Hot Zone, Captain Bill Gustin from Miami-Dade Fire Rescue will join us to share some valuable knowledge gathered over his 30 years of experience in the fire service.
This is Captain Gustin's second visit with us on the program, and many of you may already know him as a presenter in our Officers Development Academy.
Let's give a listen to Bill's presentation on Florida Specific Firefighting.
Hello, I'm Captain Bill Gustin with Miami-Dade County Fire Rescue. Once again, it is a great privilege and honor to be presenting a video training session for my brothers and sisters on Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. This class will be a continuation of hose line operations for fires in multiple dwellings. A little bit about myself. I've been a firefighter since 1973. I began my career in the Chicago area. I'm a captain, company officer in the Liberty City area in Miami-Dade County. I want to just start off with a review, just a quick recap of our previous session about how important size up is when you are arriving at a fire in a large multiple dwelling. You've got to be very careful where you spot your apparatus, where you position, and where you stretch your hose line. Size up is key. You've got to know before you go with these types of buildings just because of the sheer size. Just a review of some of the considerations of a hose stretch in a multiple dwelling. We looked at exterior hallway buildings, and that was the bulk of our material that we covered in the previous session. This time we're going to concentrate on fires in apartments, condominiums, hotels that have interior hallways. That's a lot more difficult because the smoke is not going to dissipate. You're going to have a visibility problem and a much greater life hazard for your occupants and for your firefighters. We're going to review some methods to get that hose line to the upper floor of a multiple dwelling. We broached on this in the last session. We discussed using a rope, ladders, pike poles, and that can also be used for interior hallway buildings. Again, you have to locate the fire first. Then you can designate and evacuate your attack stairwell. We're going to look at some alternatives to the old-fashioned fire academy stairwell stretch. We're going to try to avoid that because of our limited staffing and because for most of us on departments outside of the big city, we do not have a hose bed configuration that lends itself or is conducive to hand laying hose up several flights of stairs. Again, rope bag is a good alternative. Now, whether we drop the rope and hoist the hose line directly to the fire floor or to the floor below depends on two conditions. One is the fire floor hallway clear? In order for that to be the case, the door to the fire apartment has to be closed, and we have to make sure it stays closed throughout that operation. Secondly, we want to hoist the hose line from a window that is either directly next to a stairwell or into a stairwell, because if you get yourself into trouble, say you run out of air in your breathing apparatus, you can follow the hose line back and you will be in close proximity to your means of egress, your escape stairwell. So we want to make sure that the fire floor hallway is clear and we maintain control of that door. Once the door is open, things are going to get ugly in that hallway. And again, make sure that you're hoisting from a window that is in a stairwell or directly next to one. I cannot emphasize how important it is to keep that door closed until you have at least 50 feet of hose flaked out at the door to the fire apartment. You've charged the line, you bled the line, you flowed the line, masked up, hooded up, gloves on, everybody in position, and all non-combatants that are not wearing breathing apparatus and full protective gear have got to be off of that floor, because as I said, once we open that door, it's going to get ugly. We've got to maintain control of that door. Let's talk about wind for a minute. Wind is a very significant factor in our hose line advance. Any wind greater than 20 miles an hour blowing into the open windows of a fire apartment, when you open that door, fire could blowtorch out of that door and into that hallway and severely burn you. And this it's happened several times on fire departments throughout this country. This is part of your size-up factor. If you know that you have a strong wind and it is blowing at the face of a building and the fire is on the windward side, consider what's going to happen when a window in that fire apartment fails. When you open up that door, again, there could be a blowtorch. Perhaps the alternative is don't open the door. Go to the adjoining apartment. Break a hole in the wall, preferably up towards the front of the apartment, directly at the windward side, and operate a stream through that hole in the wall, rather than subject yourselves to a blowtorching, wind-driven fire. When you have a hallway that's tenable because the door to the fire apartment is closed, you're going to bring up your nozzle and at least 50 feet of hose to the door to the fire apartment, and you're going to bring it in on the hinge side. Now consider the layout of your typical apartment, motel room, condominium. The door opens up against a wall. If you came in on the latch side, you may have to take an immediate 180 as soon as you enter the doorway. Come in on the hinge side. You'll have a clearer shot at your advance. So here you see your nozzle. You have the nozzle and you have 50 feet laid out on the hinge side of the fire apartment. Better yet, take your nozzle and take your first 50-foot coupling with you and lay it down again on the hinge side of the fire apartment door. Now, let's say that as you're stretching the hose, that you encounter the latch side first, okay? Walk 50 feet past the latch, turn around, face the wall, and walk back to position your coupling right at the hinge of the door. Now, I'm going to play my own devil's advocate here. I've had firefighters ask me, well, if firefighters get into trouble, they're going to follow that hose line and they're going to be traveling opposite the direction of their means of escape back to the stairwell. No, not necessarily. We're going to emphasize the importance of a door position firefighter that would guide the firefighters back along the hose line that would lead to their means of escape. This is at our training center, and we've got our 50 feet of hose laid out on the hinge side of the apartment door. We're not only bleeding that line, we are flowing it to check its volume, check the quality of the stream. Now, everybody's masked up. Hoods on, gloves on, we've evacuated the hallway. We are controlling the swing of the door with the tubular webbing. We're ready at the nozzle to force that door with the Halligan. If we encountered a wind-driven fire that would blow out of that door like a blowtorch, we would take that tubular webbing, slam the door shut, keep it shut, and as I said, go to the adjoining apartment, knock a hole in the wall, and direct the stream through a hole in the wall to the adjoining apartment. Let's talk about a well. A well is an opening in a stairwell. If you stand at the bottom of the stairwell, you can look straight up and see the top of the stairwell. When you have that opening, that's a great advantage because one 50-foot section of hose will range as far as the 5th floor. It's a good idea to take a working length, 50 feet of hose, with you as you ascend the stairs. Keep the bundle in the hand opposite the well so that you won't drop the bundle of hose down the well. All right, here the fire floor is clear again. We raise our hose up through the well, stretch dry down the hallway, lay our nozzle on the hinge side of the fire apartment door, Flake it out so we have 50 feet at the hinge side and the nozzle. That 50 feet will give you enough hose to maneuver through your average size apartment. Now, I realize in Palm Beach County you have a lot of apartments and condos that would require 100, maybe even 150 feet laid out at the door before the line is charged. That would give you the amount of hose necessary to maneuver through an extraordinarily large apartment or condominium. We're going to have to secure this hose. If you do not secure it with a rope or tubular webbing on the stair railing, when the line is charged, your hose is going to fall down the well. Here you see it secured. Can you do the same thing with 2.5 or 3-inch hose? Yes, you can. Essentially, you are putting a standpipe in this building. I like to bring it up to the half landing between the floor below the fire and the fire floor. This allows a nice gentle bend in the hose without any kinks when you're using hose larger than 1 3/4 inches. I want to caution you, never place or stage equipment in a stairwell when you have a well opening. When the line is charged or when you're moving that hose line, invariably, that equipment is going to find itself to the well, it's going to fall down the well, and you're going to need more than an NFPA-approved helmet to keep from being injured. Let's say it's the worst-case scenario. You have no well, you have no window. What are we going to do next? Could we force a door to an apartment right next to the attack stairwell and stretch a hose line in through the window to that apartment? Yes, we could. That's an alternative. Again, the time to figure that out is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon during pre-fire planning, not 3 o'clock in the morning. Worst case scenario, no well, no window. And you don't think it's appropriate to force an apartment door on the fire floor or the floor below, okay? Most apartments outside of Chicago, New York, and some of the other larger departments do not have a hose load that is conducive to a hand stretch up several flights of stairs. Arguably, the department that is most skilled and most capable of stretching hose line up several flights of stairs is the FDNY. But let's consider the FDNY. They staff their engines with 5 or 6 firefighters, and they have a hose load that is conducive to that type of hand stretch. Most of us outside of New York don't have that type of hose load, so we're going to have to adapt our hose load configuration for that. What we need is some type of load that you carry and it pays off of your shoulder or your forearm as you are stretching up the stairs. Now this is Clearwater, Florida. This is a Minuteman load. Now this company demonstrated this to me. 2 firefighters advanced 300 feet of 1 3/4 inches up several flights of stairs. The nozzle firefighter grabs the bundle, places it on his shoulder. The company officer takes the remaining bundle, or the second bundle, places it on his shoulder, and then he's very meticulous to pull the remaining hose out of that hose bed. Now, how much hose remains in the hose bed? Well, through pre-fire planning, the city of Clearwater has determined it's going to be close to 100 feet between the apparatus and the base of the building. So that's what he's going to clear. And he's doing this without the help of a driver engineer, just to demonstrate the versatility of this hose load. So they carefully move towards the building. Now they're going to use an exterior stairway here just so we can take pictures and get a better idea of what they're doing. Notice that he's pulling all the slack between the apparatus and the base of the stairwell. Then they ascend. Any slack is pulled up to eliminate a potential kink. Again, all the slack between the apparatus and the stairway is pulled out. They kick the hose into the corner so there's no kinks. As they ascend, the hose plays off of the company officer's shoulder. Potential kink, they take the time to pull the kink out. You got to take the time to get it right the first time. If you hastily charge the line with kinks in it, you're going to waste more time than you think you would be saving by rushing. Now, we've experimented with that on my department and on my company. This is a modified Minuteman. Only half the load is in a Minuteman configuration. This is a 200-foot pre-connect. The first 100 feet, that is the section with the nozzle, is pulled off. It's going to be advanced towards the building. The second 100 feet is going to be advanced or stretched by the second firefighter. The second firefighter is going to pull all the slack between the apparatus and the base of the stairway into the bottom floor of the stairway. And then he's going to move up to the half landing and pull the slack out again. Now, where is the firefighter with the bundle of hose? Well, again, it depends upon the tenability of the fire floor hallway. In this case, the fire floor is clear. Therefore, we can stretch directly to the fire floor, directly to the door to the fire apartment, as long as we maintain that door and make sure it remains closed. In this case, we'll set our nozzle down, flake out our 50 feet on the hinge side of the door, and then get ready to charge the line. Now, let's say that the fire is in apartment 308, and that's apartment 308 with the door open, contaminating the hallway. The fire floor hallway is dirty. We are not going to stretch hose dry to the fire floor under those conditions. In this case, we're going to have to team up. You see, I've got some pretty ruggedly handsome guys there with myself. I don't know who that geezer is there in the middle, that old guy, but anyway, that's a ruggedly handsome group right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to stretch initially to the second floor. That would be the floor below the fire. Now, if I can stretch hose from the attack stairwell to the apartment directly below the fire, how much more hose will I need to reach the door to the fire apartment and have 50 feet to maneuver through the fire apartment? The answer is 100 feet. That would give you 50 feet to ascend from the floor below the fire to the fire floor and 50 feet to maneuver through your average size apartment. So we'll flake our hose out on the floor below. And then we will add a 100-foot extension pack. If your department operates with 1 3/4 line for high-rise, maybe it's your high-rise pack. We'll add the 100 feet. Now, we can flake that 100 feet in the stairwell provided that the situation or conditions are ideal. In this case, if the fire was on the 3rd floor, we could ascend from the 2nd, that's the floor below the fire, past the fire floor, which would be the 3rd floor, to the 4th floor, and then come back down. Caution. This can only be done under ideal conditions. If the stairway is smoky, do not attempt to flake out hose in the stairwell. Lay all your hose out on the floor below. If you can't see what you're doing because of the smoke, you're not going to see these potential kinks. In this case, the conditions are ideal, so we flake the hose up to the floor above the fire and then back down. When you do this, you have got to keep that stairwell door closed. Once you open the stairwell, you're going to turn it into a chimney. Right? Let's say we have straight run stairs. We've been talking about return stairs where there's a half landing in between floors. Let's talk about straight run stairs. In this case, grab the middle of the last section of a hose and walk it up the stairs, hold it in position, and then we'll charge the line. That's what straight run stairs. Now, before we open the door to that stairwell, we're going to charge the line. We're going to bleed the line. We're going to flow the line. We're going to eliminate kinks. If there's any kinks, we'll pull that hose up on the wall. Again, we're going to flow the line, not just bleed it. In this case, we have a nozzle where we can remove the fog tip, and we have an integral 15/16 smoothbore tip, which we're going to use in this situation. Now, what's it going to take to get this hose line to the fire apartment? It's going to take a team of 6 firefighters. Now, I realize you're not rolling with 6 people on your pumpers. Either am I. But we're going to team up companies. Nothing in this situation is more important than getting that hose line to the seat of the fire. Remember, it's not just to protect property, it is to protect life in buildings that have too many people to be physically evacuated. The most important thing we can do to save lives, protect lives for these occupants is to get a hose line in on that fire. So we're going to team up companies to get that first line into operation. So here, we have a team of 6 that would consist of the nozzle man or the nozzle position firefighter and the officer. We will have a 3rd person back on the line, somewhere between the attack stairway and the door to the fire apartment. If there is a corner in the hallway, that is where that firefighter would position him or herself. Now, how would you know that corner is there? Because you familiarized yourself with the floor below. And then we're going to need the mules. Everybody wants to be on the nozzle, but the nozzle is not going to get to the seat of the fire unless we have these mules. Everybody's job is equally important. One mule is going to be operating at the fire floor landing, pulling hose up the stairs and pushing it down the hallway to the nozzle team. We'll have a mule at mid-landing. And we're going to have a mule on the floor below that is going to grab the hose, pull it from the floor below, and push it up to the half landing, to the mule at half landing. Once the nozzle reaches the fire, sure, open the nozzle, operate on what fire is visible, but the officer and the third person on that hose line is going to pull up 50 feet at the door to the fire department. Then the door position firefighter can move up the line and take a position at the door to the fire apartment. You've got 50 feet laid out. That frees up the mules. Their job is done. Door position feeds hose to the officer who's at a corner in the apartment, and the nozzle firefighter operates, let's say, in a bedroom. Now, can we do the same thing with a triple layer or S load? Yes, we can, but we're going to have to configure that hose so it plays off of our forearm by going back and gathering up the hose and stacking it on your forearm or your shoulder. In that case, you would be able to ascend playing the hose off, similar to a reverse horseshoe. This is the shuffle. I devised this technique. It's probably not original. I'm sure somebody else has come up with this in the past, but when we have fire recruits that are advancing or stretching hose up the stairs, when they drop a bundle of hose, many times they throw their hands up in despair. What are they going to do now? They've messed up the hose stretch. No, not necessarily. You're going to take and grab and pull the hose up to the next half landing, and then move up another half landing and pull up the hose again. So we kind of adapted that technique for a situation when everything else fails. You get a smoky stairway, you're not used to working with firefighters, you're operating in mutual aid. Whatever conditions dictate that you're going to have to adapt and overcome. We begin by bringing all of the couplings to the base of the stairwell. We take the nozzle and we bring it up to the second floor landing and lay it down on the stairs above the second floor landing. Now this seems pretty rudimentary. It's actually a pretty crude method, but it does work when other methods fail. Start pulling and piling, pull and pile the hose until all the slack is pulled out, and then everybody move up a half landing. The nozzle firefighter can move up to the third floor. Lay the nozzle down again on the stairs, and the officer can operate at the half landing between the second and third floor, and then move up to the fourth, so on and so on. You add a couple more firefighters into this mix, and it's a very fast technique. Let's look at another scenario. We've got a fire on the 5th floor. It's in apartment 507. We're going to locate apartment 407, and you know by pre-fire planning in this particular building, apartments line up. 407 is directly below 507. 507 is below 607. We locate 407. We familiarize ourselves with the hallway. Is there a corner in it where we're going to have to position a firefighter? We're going to locate and designate that attack stairwell. Let all companies operating know which stairway we're going to attack the fire from. We're going to count the number of doors from the fire apartment. This is on the floor below, directly below the fire apartment, back to the stairwell. Now, do we have a window in or next to that stairwell where we can drop a rope, such as in this situation, which we reviewed earlier? Here we're using a well on the floor below. Why the floor below? Because the fire floor, that is the 5th floor, is untenable. Stretch out our hose from the attack stairwell or a window next to the attack stairwell to the apartment directly below the fire. Again, how much more hose are we going to need to ascend from the floor below to the fire floor and then have enough hose to maneuver through the average size apartment? 100 feet of hose. So here we're going to add a 100-foot hose bundle. Conditions are ideal, so we will stretch up to the floor above the fire and then back down. This will allow gravity to feed at least the first 50 feet into the fire floor. And again, it has to be in ideal conditions. If you have a smoky stairway or if you have throngs of people trying to evacuate in that stairway, play it safe and lay all your hose out on the floor below. Okay, all right, we've got our hose laid out at the 5th floor landing. We're going to keep that door between the stairwell, the attack stairwell, and the fire floor closed until everybody is masked up, the line is charged, the line is flowed. We check the quality and the pattern of the stream. Our firefighters are in position. No one is above the level of that door. We're talking firefighters and civilians. When you open the door, you're going to turn it into a chimney. Make sure that you do not open that door until the stairs above you are evacuated. We'll chock the door, and a nozzle team of 3 firefighters will advance down the hallway with the charged line. But it's not going to get to the fire apartment without the unsung heroes. That would be the mules. Not a very glamorous job, but an important job. We'll have a mule at the fire floor landing, we'll have a mule at the mid landing, and we'll have that mule on the floor below the fire, pulling the hose from the floor below it, pushing it into the stairwell. If you have a well opening, you may be able to do away with the mid landing mule, but it's going to require some upper body strength from the other 2 firefighters. Once you reach the fire apartment, again, bring up 50 feet of hose to the door to the fire apartment. That will give you enough hose to maneuver through the fire apartment. It also frees up the mules so they can start a search or stretch another hose line, whatever else their mission is. Well, that's about all we have for today. Again, we've just scratched the surface. I just want to emphasize how important it is for your companies to get out there and pre-fire plan. You've got to know before you go. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to present to my brothers and sisters on the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue Department. Thank you for watching. May God bless you and keep you safe in this most noble profession.
Great stuff, Bill. Thanks for your contribution. Joining us today for the close of today's program is Ty Chow with some information about the cadet program here at Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. I want to thank all you guys for coming in. Appreciate it very much. Ty, exactly how do you become a sponsor with the cadet program?
To be a sponsor, all you have to do is anybody out in the field, if you'd like to sponsor one of the cadets, just either email me on my email or Miss Lori right here, and we'll get back to you and we'll give you the information on how to be a sponsor.
Okay, how often do you meet and where does those meetings take place?
We meet every Thursday at headquarters in the training room from 6 to 8:30. And we split it up since we have a total of about 125 kids. We split it up from Battalion 1 and Battalion 2. And that's where we do our training.
What do the cadets do? Are they actually allowed to go to the fire stations and ride in the stations on real calls?
Yes, after their 6-week training with us, we release them to a sponsor out in the field, and they actually go out there and ride at the station level.
Do they actually have gear and that kind of thing?
They have gear, and they're trained to do just ride along, observe, and help with the crew.
Keith, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Great. What do you like about being a cadet?
I've been here about a year. It's a great big family. I've learned things about the fire service, never could have learned anywhere else. To prepare me for Fire Academy and to be a better firefighter in general.
Very good. All right, well, thanks a lot for coming in. I really appreciate you guys taking the time. As always, if you have any ideas to share for future topics with us, you can contact us at the Training and Safety Division at the address on your screen.
Until the next time, keep training and be careful while you're in
the hot zone.